astrologically, the symbol for the constellation of Gemini are twins. That's the astrological symbol of the constellation of Gemini, the twins. So I just thought it was very clever because the twins always are holding hands and working together. So that's the concept I'm working on. The idea of Gemini. Yeah, I went to this. Not above it. So anyway, I'm calling it the Gemini Club. Gemini is one of the 12 signs of the zodiac, as I said. It's always pictured as the twins. One of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and I'm telling you, there's a whole world of knowledge about the zodiac that most people have no idea in the world about. That's a whole another lecture just on the zodiac and the legitimacy of the zodiac in the ancient and prehistoric world. We'll talk about that another time. But anyway, Gemini is always pictured as two individuals connected, holding hands, connected. During the Middle Ages, this was one of the symbols of Gemini, the twins. So to understand world events today, you need to think in terms of twins. That's why we have a two-party system in America. Democrats and Republicans. They're twins. They work together. They hold hands and work together. It's like a tag team wrestling match. Both wrestlers are working on the same side. It's just a tag team, and the whole thing of the show anyway. Wrestlers have to have a license to fight, and I've been told by some professional wrestlers that it's not a sports license; it's an entertainment license. So professional wrestling is viewed as just entertainment. It's all just a show. So. But anyway, so the idea is that Gemini represents two sides working together. And of course you need two. You need two eyes, you need two hands, 2 feet, 2 legs, and even with 2 legs. Have you ever tried to walk on a surface of oil or ice on it? It was very difficult, even with 2 legs, to walk on slippery surface. So you have to spread salt or sand or something on the surface to get friction or traction in order to move forward. Very interesting concept. The idea is that you have to have friction in order to walk. Because if you're walking on a surface with oil, you're not going anywhere. So you have to spread something on the oily or icy surface in order to walk, because you need friction. So how does this apply to the fact of the subject of world events? Well, if you're going to accomplish anything in world events or world affairs, you need to force people around the world to do what you want them to do. And how do politicians do that? How do they get the people of a nation to agree to do something or agree to a particular policy that the politicians at the top want done? And so, well, first of all, you have to cause friction between 2 sides. So the concept is very simple. You always have 2 sides fighting each other, Democrats and Republicans. And so, but to get the process started, you need a professional fight promoter, which is interesting. Somebody to get the fight started. So you got fight promoters, and they're promoting the fight on television. They are promoting the fight because they're making a lot of money with it. And they don't care. They're just promoting both sides. They don't care one way or the other who wins or loses. It's just a business. And so remember, the fight promoter doesn't have any favorites. He's in business to make a lot of money. So he will promote fights between anybody, no matter which side wins or loses. He doesn't care who wins or loses. So here's a fight promoter. He's got all the different flags in different countries. He doesn't care who's winning or losing. He just wants to get a fight started. Good for business. So remember, even though it's a war between 2 sides, there's a lot of money to be made. Keep in mind, it's just business. Like the mafia will tell you, it's just business, nothing personal. This fight we're putting together, it's just business to make money. somebody's going to get hurt. That's not my problem. I'm making a lot of money. So it's just a business in the ring. So now keep that in mind when you're trying to understand America and the world in general. So understand that American political system is a two-party operation only. That's why you don't have a third party, because you can only have two sides. That's why, what's his name? Ron Paul. That's why he's going nowhere, because you can only have two sides. You can have 10 different viewpoints. There's only going to be two. That's what the masters say, and that's the way it's going to be. And so, because you only need two opposing sides, Democrat, Republican. So, just like the brain is divided into two hemispheres. So, you've got the concept of two sides warring each other. Now, the American eagle, which is a symbol for the U.S., the bald eagle, the American eagle only has two wings, left wing and right wing. That's the name of the tune. So when you hear the politician talking about left-wing politics and right-wing politics, what do you mean a wing? The American eagle only has two wings. Doesn't have 3 or 4 wings, only 2. And that's now you can fly with that. So you have 2 wings, but 2 wings are controlled by obviously one brain. So the guys in the middle who are controlling things, they control both sides of the fight for the voters. So in America today, you have 2 opposing sides with the brain in the middle. And there's the brain in the middle. The Vatican. Yeah. You keep in mind that for 2,300 years, Rome has dominated Europe. Under the Caesars originally, and then later on 1,600 years ago, the Vatican came in and picked up when the Roman Empire officially fell at about the year 525, is when history said the Roman Empire officially fell. The Vatican came in and picked up the reins of power from the Caesars and started and continued to carry on the great tradition of ruling the world for Caesar. And so Rome, either originally under the Caesars of Rome, or since the 6th century, 5th century, 6th century, has been ruling the world through the Vatican, the papacy, the Pope. Rome dominates Europe, because all the royalty of Europe, all the royalty from Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, all royalty will tell you that they have a divine right of kings, divine right. What are you talking about, divine right? Well, divine obviously means God has appointed you. What God appointed the King of England? Really, what are you talking about? Divine right. The Pope anointed the different princes and kings to be kings and royalty. So therefore, he represents God, so the king has a divine right. But the whole idea of divine right of kings goes back to an ancient concept on which Rome was built, a divine right to rule the human race. And so today, in America, as all around the world, as I said, 2,200 years, Rome has dominated the world. And for 2,300 years, Rome has dominated Europe. And for 2,300 years, Europe has dominated the planet. So ultimately, the boss of all bosses is in Rome. That's why they call him the Holy Father. And that's why all politicians, I don't care if they're communists, from China, from Russia, from Africa, all the politicians and heads of state around the globe all go to Rome to pay homage and pay respect to the Holy Father. Why? Because we don't understand it. But the guys at the top of this world know who the boss of all bosses is. And it's all about respect. You go to Rome and you show respect for Caesar. And maybe there will be something in it for you. You mess with the Vatican and you'll be assassinated. Because it's an criminal organization. So even in America today, in our country today, you will always see in the middle a politician, both left and right. You'll see always the clergy in the middle between the two political sides. They're always there, so that you understand a bit better what all this means for you. You need to know what the two sides represent. The two sides that are being represented in America and around the world politically is Marxist communism, Marxist socialism, or National Socialism as under Adolf Hitler. That's what's going on around the world today. There are two major sides warring against each other, and it's just a business. The guys at the top know it's just a business. It's just a show. But for the benefit of commerce and politics and world development, there are two sides. One is the Marxist socialism, which we basically call communism, Marxist communism, or on the other side, which is right-wing, is National Socialism, or the Republican Party. So the Democrats are the communists, and the Republicans are the Nazis. And it's very simple, because if you understand where the Republican Party comes from, go back and look at the history of Operation Paperclip, Martin Bormann, Odessa, Holy Father. The history is just filled with reference books explaining where the Republican Party has come from in the United States and where the Democratic Party actually came from, and the European origins of it. So what we have in America is one half of America is voting for communism, Marxist-Leninist communism, while the other half is for the Nazis or the Republican Party. Very simple. Here you have a classic example in the old Newsweek magazine. On the left you'll see Stalin representing the Democratic Party. This is why all communist countries always have democratic in them. The People's Democratic Republic of China, the People's Democratic Republic of Cuba, the People's Democratic Republic of North Korea. Always communist countries are referred to as the People's Democratic Republic, because Democrats. So one half of our country is Democrats. The People's Democratic Republic, which is nothing more than communism. Marxist, Leninist, Bolshevik communism. But on the other side of the Republicans who are fighting them, well, that's Nazism. I don't know which is better. Either got the Nazis or the communists. And so on the right-hand side, you'll see von Ribbentrop, who was Hitler's secretary, international, I guess you'd like Secretary of State. But it shows, both sides, Hitler and the communists shaking hands. They even used to have jokes in cartoons going around that Hitler was in love with Stalin, and the posters always the same. Hitler and Stalin, always the same posters. There's jokes in newspapers how the devil used to love the Nazis, and now he's got the communists because they're even better. And so both sides are fighting against each other. So you need to recognize that both sides identify with the same symbolic color also, red. So Marxist socialism or communism, they even made a movie called Reds. Red was always the color associated with Marxism and communism. Always red. National Socialism or Nazism, they love red too. Red was a very big color for them also. Now there's a reason why. Now, keeping in mind that both sides are represented by the color red, the question, of course, is why red? Was because the Caesars, that was a color that was chosen by the Caesars of Rome. So the powers that be in the Roman Empire, you could tell their position of power by the colors that the emperor wore. Red is a symbol for, it's a very interesting, why red? Not only does it have to do with bloodshed, but it all has to do with something going back into the old Phoenician Canaanite commercial system of red. So the Roman soldiers were always draped in red. The red flags in the Roman legions. The soldiers would wear red tunics. And today, you still see the Roman masters between the left and the right in Washington, D.C. Red has always been the color of the Vatican. They're all reds. Red, and this is why even in the Bible it talks about the scarlet-colored wild beast. And Protestant Christianity is probably right when they say the scarlet-colored wild beast, the red wild beast is the Vatican. Yeah, I would agree with that. Because the Vatican is a wild beast. It's known for killing and murdering all over the world, promoting wars, violence, bloodshed, pornography, filth, degeneracy, gun running. My God, the Vatican is doing crap all over the world, buying and selling children, buying and selling humans, creating wars. It's just incredible what they're getting away with. Drug trafficking from Colombia. Colombia is a Catholic country. All of South America is a Catholic. Vatican, Nazi, SS, Gestapo, Mexico, and that's where all the drugs are coming from. That's where all the murder and killing is going on. The Vatican. Hey, by their fruits you shall know them. So that's the fruitage of the presence of Caesar and Rome in the modern day world. The scarlet-colored red beast. Nazi. We all know that the Marxist communist flags are always red. Communist flags have always been red. As I said, it represents revolution. Why? It's because it represents bloodshed. And it represents the communist powers of the world. But it also, represents the Nazis on the other side. So red flags are very important. Very, very interesting, and I think profoundly important is the next point I want to make. Probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you today is that the red flag of both the communists and the Nazis, here's in China, the red flag. The red flag, of course the Nazis, as I said, the Nazi party has red. They're big on red. Red flags, red symbols. It is here that we need to ask, how did this ancient Roman red flag symbol from ancient Rome come into our modern day world of politics? This is the point, I think, is the most important point of my whole presentation tonight. Something that I feel is extraordinarily important. Where does this idea of the red flag that the communists and Nazis use around the world, in all countries of the world? What is the common source for this idea? Well, there's a church in Italy called the Church of Jesus. And on the altarpiece is a painting, a huge painting of Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuit order. Okay? The founder of the Jesuit order. And it says that the Church of Jesus altarpiece by a Jesuit artist featuring Ignatius Loyola with his red standard, and reported by an article in the 2008 New York Times, which was effectively buried in 1908, shortly prior to the rise of various 20th century political movements employing the standard of a red flag. This was in the New York Times. So here is the great painting that's being reestablished and refurbished and put into the church of Ignatius Loyola, the Black Pope. He's referred to as the Black Pope, receiving the red flag from Jesus. So here they are putting up this big painting that's been hidden for many years. They found it, and now they're going to put it up in the Church of the Holy Name, showing Ignatius Loyola receiving a red flag standard from Jesus. That's the concept of God's kingdom, the Vatican dominating the world. And the way you dominate the world is by divide and conquer. So you divide half the world into fascism, Marxist-Leninist fascism, the other half into National Socialism. And so you've got the communists on one side and the Nazis on the other, all over the world. From South America and Egypt today, the factions are fighting. One's left-wing, one's right-wing. All over the Middle East, all over Africa, all over the world. There's a war going on between the communists and the Nazis. And the red flag is important to both sides. Why? Because of the Jesuits. That's where this stuff is coming from. All roads lead to Rome. Period. It's an old saying, but it's true. All of this crap going on in the world, wars, violence, criminality, drug running, terrorism, can all be traced back to the Holy Father. It's just business. It's controlling the world by divide and conquer. Here it is in the church. Loyola's red flag, which interestingly enough was buried in 1908, just before the start of the socialist movement. Yeah, closely resembles flags of socialist movements. Yeah, I think this is very important. Ignatius Loyola getting the red flag standard from Jesus. Yeah. So I am totally convinced, after looking at this all these many years, that the Jesuits are the real power behind the throne. So when I hear people talking about the Jewish conspiracy, the Jews are doing this and the Jews are doing that, my thought is you better go back and do your homework. You don't have it yet. The Jews have never controlled Europe. Rome under Caesar controlled Europe. Caesar as a Roman emperor was a tyrant. Anyone, any religion could operate in the Roman Empire as long as you know who Caesar is, as long as you show respect for the master of all masters. For the godfather of all godfathers is Rome, the Holy Father. So today, it doesn't matter if you're a communist or a Nazi or a terrorist. It doesn't matter if you're Palestinian. It just doesn't matter. You go to the Rome and you bow before the Holy Father. The bottom line is Rome rules the world. It always has for 2,300 years. It still does today. That's why Washington, D.C. was built by Vatican, by Jesuits. The whole outline of Washington, D.C. is a Jesuit Catholic establishment. I mean, if you read Will Durant's his work on the Roman Empire and all the other reference works on the history of the Roman Empire, it will tell you that Caesar, the center for power in Rome, where Caesar ruled Rome from, was on a hill. It was called Capitoline Hill. And Capitoline Hill, or Capitol Hill. That's history. So Caesar ruled Rome from Capitol Hill. How did he rule Rome? Well, the flag said SPQR, which you remember seeing those flags in the movies. SPQR as it's the Caesar plus the, what was it? It's the people of Rome, Caesar and the people of Rome. No, the people of Rome and the Senate. That's what it was, Senate and the people of Rome, SPQR. And Latin was the Senate and the people of Rome. And so that's who ruled the Roman Empire, was the Senate, which represented the people of Rome. But the Senate was up on the hill, Capitol Hill. Well, that's what we got today. We got the Caesar up on the hill, overseeing the Senate, the Roman Senate. So, and the whole of Washington, D.C. is laid out according to the ancient Roman system of occult power. So, as I said, I think this is probably the most important point of all. That here we have Ignatius Loyola getting the red flag of communism, of Marxism, and Nazism from Jesus, from God. So let's see what else these communist, Nazi, bloodletting murderers got from their Roman Jesuit Vatican masters. Because they got a lot of stuff. They didn't get the red flag. They got a lot of other stuff in the Vatican. So let's start with the old ancient symbol of the used by the Vatican, the double-headed eagle. In the Vatican, you will see on the floor, double-headed eagle. Here in the reference book, it says one of the symbols of the military order of the Vatican is a double-headed eagle. So this is the Vatican symbol. In the Vatican, you'll see the double-headed eagle, and on one side he's holding a cross, and on the other side he's holding the globe of the world. And you'll see beneath the eagle, the double-headed eagle, you'll see two keys. This is in the Vatican. The two keys are, of course, the keys of Peter, the keys of Rome. And the two keys represent the key to power in the spiritual world and in the physical world. The Pope is over the spiritual life of the planet and over the political life of the planet. So he rules both worlds, the physical world and the spiritual world. He's God among all. He's the godfather of all things, the master of all of them, Caesar. Here's a flag of the Holy Roman Empire. You'll see the double-headed eagle. In a cathedral in Rome, you will see the double-headed eagle representing the Holy Roman Empire. The double-headed eagle, shield and arms for Rome. Another one, symbol of the Roman Empire, double-headed eagle. So always, everywhere you see in Europe, the double-headed eagle represents the power of the papacy to oversee the spiritual life of the world and the political life of the earth. He's been given power over life and death. King of the Holy Roman Empire, many centuries ago, you see the double-headed eagle. And of course, the double-headed eagle gives birth to all of these royal families. You know, all the knights in the royal families who rule Europe as a divine right of kings. You know, that divine right, because the double-headed eagle of the Vatican says you can be king. Unless, of course, the Holy Father decides he doesn't want you to be king. Now you can be assassinated and put somebody else in there. Because he's the boss of all bosses. If you've got a problem with that, speak up, you know. So let's look at the Russians first, because now what we're talking about... okay, yeah, I can use it. So what we're talking about here is a double-headed eagle representing the Roman Empire. So let's start with the Russians. Marxist socialism. The Russian Empire has a double-headed eagle, of course. Double-headed eagle of Russia. That crown, incidentally, above is called the Phrygian crown. The Phrygian crown is also used in Judaism. It's a symbol in Judaism for the crown of God over the Jewish world, over the Jewish religion. It's called the Phrygian crown, but in this particular case, it has a cross on it. So that's a whole other story, the Phrygian crown. Very interesting stuff, where it came from. But nonetheless, we're talking about a double-headed eagle representing the powers of Russia. The holy powers of Russia, which was under Roman domination. Here's the Boys Art Ballet in Russia. You will see the double-headed eagle, Phrygian crown. Under communism, you have the harmonic sickle, but it's still the double-headed eagle. So the Marxist socialists, they have the double-headed eagle, and of course in Germany, under the National Socialists, on the right wing, the Republican side, you have Adolf Hitler, books called Double-Headed Eagle, Hitler's Rise to Power, the double-headed eagle, double-headed eagle. Here's the German double-headed eagle there. The two-headed eagle emblem of the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire, on a red shield. That's because of Rothschild, red shield. Always the double-headed eagle on both sides. This is a German shield. Another German, this is a stamp of seal in Germany. So the Germans and the Russians both have the double-headed eagles, obviously because they got it from the Vatican, of course. Next, there's something called death head colors. I was introduced to this idea many years ago in Santa Monica. There was a professor from Chicago who gave a private lecture, and I was invited to it, about, and the title was Death Head Colors. And he explained the death head colors were red, black, and white, and why they're called death head colors, because the SS and the Gestapo in Nazi Germany used those three colors, and they always represented death. I mean, when you're confronted by the Gestapo and the SS, you're dead man. And the colors were always red, black, and white for a reason that symbolized something. And so they became known as death head colors. And they use death head colors everywhere, but especially in Hollywood. So the Marxist-Leninists, communists, they use the death head colors, black, white, and red. Look at that. You've got a red background, a white circle with a black hammer and sickle. Death head colors. Hammer and sickle, obviously in Russia. Obviously in Russia, death head symbol. You can get children doing it. But this is the point, is that this is a red flag, white center, and black symbol of the hammer and sickle for communism. Now, the Hitler's Nazis, the Republican part of the world, the other half, same thing. Red flag, white center, black swastika. So it's the same idea, the same colors are used on both sides. And the reason why is because the Vatican, this is called the death head colors, can be traced back to the occultism of the Vatican and Roman Empire. That was a very important color in Rome, was red, white, and black. Even today, the Austrian coat of arms on the flag is the same thing, red, white, and black. You see it everywhere, even in Europe today. Death head colors. You see it in movies. So what I mean, see what I mean? Guess who? Death head colors. Red, white, and black. Papacy. At least Poland figured it out. In Poland, they passed a law that says that communist and Nazi symbols are one and the same thing. They don't want either one. So I figured, well, at least Poland figured it out finally. But there is no sides. It's just all one operation. And Poland should know because it's a Catholic country. And hell, if anybody should know what the Pope was doing, they should. So they've outlawed the use of the death head colors, and they equate in their new law that communist and Nazi symbols are the same. Well, they are. Quite literally. On the left-hand side, Nazis. On the right-hand side, communists. Same symbols, same colors, same everything. They got it from Rome. Some more ancient Roman symbols used on both sides by the twins, Gemini twins. You will see this is called the Oath of the Horatii, I think it is, the Oath of the Horatii, which is a symbol of the Roman soldiers showing allegiance to the sword of Rome, showing allegiance to, and so that symbol of the straight arm salute goes back to ancient Rome. It's an ancient Roman symbol to show respect for and inferiority before the master, before Caesar. So in the communist countries, they always have the straight arm salute. I mean, realizing that it's Roman, but here it is in the Marxist communism. The same idea. It is in China, same idea. Now, under National Socialism, you've got Hitler doing the same thing. The straight arm salute. So the communists do it, the Nazis do it. They use the same colors. Yeah. Yeah. Next thing I think is interesting that they both use, the twins use, is the goose step. Oh, have any of you ever heard of the goose step march? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the Marxist, Leninists, the communists use the goose step march. Yeah. The term goose step refers to a particular style of marching. The Russians, for one, Russian soldiers marching in goose step. It's a very interesting and crazy way of marching. It's called the goose step. Russians, red flag, Soviet Union, goose step. It's very interesting to watch if you've ever seen films of the official marching of the troops in the Soviet Union in Red Square. It's very interesting to watch when this goose step march. Very impressive. Very, very intimidating. Because the symbolism is that they are marching over mankind. They're not just marching to follow the Fuhrer. No, they're marching with a violent attitude. Russian soldiers goose-stepping in Moscow. Now, under Hitler, of course, we have the German soldiers with the goose-step. Same thing. The more it changed, the more you stay the same. The German army was big on goose-stepping too. I just think it's interesting how both sides use the same symbols, same colors, same term. They march the same. Even the Italians got into it under Mussolini, goose-step. Yeah. And it says in military society, like Nazi Germany and like the Soviet army, North Korea picks up on the goose-step too. So moving on to the next symbol used by these Jesuit twins and Jesuit slaves is the hammer and sickle. The hammer and sickle is obviously, everyone knows, is a symbol for communism and the Communist Party. The hammer and sickle. Most people have no idea why the hammer and sickle were chosen. The hammer is the hammer of Thor, the German god Thor. And the sickle was the symbol for the planet Saturn. Saturn was the great reaper. He was the law and there was the reaper. And so the sickle represented the planet Saturn, and the hammer was the hammer of Thor. So they put together the Saturnian god was the great reaper, and the hammer of Thor, the hammer and sickle. And they said, well, no, it was that what they tell the poor people out in the street is that the hammer and sickle represented the farming community who got together with the industrial community to form a whole new society.
No, that's what I heard.
Yeah. But if you do some homework and read and go back to the reference books, you'll begin to see where this stuff really came from. It got nothing to do with what you thought it was. So anyway, under Marxist socialism, you have the hammer and sickle. The hammer and sickle was used under Marxist communism. Now, that was all Marxist communism. And speaking of Marxist communism, when Obama was elected out in the streets of Washington, D.C. and the big cities of America, these poor, ill-informed kids were celebrating the election of Obama with their Soviet communist flag.
Was that an isolated incident? Was that just one picture, 3 people, or is this kind of the whole thing? That's amazing.
No, there's quite a few pictures. I just picked a couple quickly to put it in just to show. Here's Americans jumping for joy at their new communist, socialist, Marxist, Leninist, Bolshevik, murdering, bloodletting, murdering pimp who is sitting with the Holy Father in New York, having steak dinners, while the American people are so goddamn stupid, so profoundly ignorant, uninformed, and unread, they can't wait to elect a Nazi or a communist or somebody. So that's what we got going today. We got the Nazis. I mean, the communists are in power today. Marxist, Leninist, Bolshevik, communists. But, of course, under National Socialism, under Hitler, you have the hammer and sickle, same thing in Nazi Germany. Note the hammer and sickle, the two Soviet symbols. There were many affinities between Nazism and communism. Well, yeah, duh. So even under Nazism, with the swastika, you see the hammer and sickle. On the one side, on the right-hand side is communists, on the left-hand side is the Nazis. So they use the same symbols. And even on the German national and Austrian flag, you'll see the eagle. The eagle is carrying the hammer and the sickle, even today. So,
But can I make a comment real quick?
yeah,
The reason why the chains are broken is because the Austrians are saying we broke
yeah.
the
But
bonds.
they're still holding the hammer and the sickle.
Yeah. But that's his day of work, or day for work. Is
Right, it is. I mean, you don't see officially those two things.
Yeah.
You don't.
Next is the clenched fist.
No.
That's another symbol that's used on both sides. The clenched fist. International Socialist Organization, the ISO, which is Marxist socialism, Trotskyism, or what we call the far left, the left wing, uses the clenched fist. Marxist socialism, clenched fist. So you see all these communist symbols of the use of the clenched fist. South Africa.
That's supposed to be black
Yeah.
power.
Yeah, but I mean, they have the socialist.
Well, what's his
Yeah.
name?
Mandela.
South Africa.
Mandela. You know, he's a
Yes.
communist.
Nelson Mandela, of course.
Yeah, Nelson Mandela. And everybody in Africa just happy as a punch to see Mandela, never realizing what's really going on here. Communist. Yeah, even Joseph Lieberman.
This is, oh, you're late.
Yeah. Now, under National Socialism, which is the Republican Party, the Nazis, they have also the same thing. It's called white power, the white power fist, with the Roman wreath, white power. You will see
Hey, Nazis.
so a symbol of Nazism today is a fish. It is the clenched fist. Here's Hitler with the fist. Even the wax museums have Hitler with the clenched fist. There's a classic one off of a television show, a film of Hitler in a parade giving the communist clenched fist symbol, just like the Russian communists. So also the Nazis. Now let's look at something really interesting. They both use a swastika. This is something most people have never heard ever. We know that the National Socialists, the Nazis, were famous for their use of the swastika. The swastika was, of course, a sun symbol, a symbol of the sun. So here's Hitler wearing a swastika, which everybody knows that was a swastika is a Nazi symbol. German symbol with the red, white, black death head colors. So telling people that Hitler used and the Nazis used a swastika, everybody knows that. But what people don't know is the communists also used the swastika at the same time. Yeah. On this, here is a Soviet Republic, USSR socialist swastika with the double-headed eagle, just like the Germans, the double-headed eagle, and you'll see the swastika behind it. And then here's another. Here's a tag worn on the military tags emblem with a red swastika. USSR socialist swastika. Here is a passport, USSR socialist communist passport under the Soviet Union. What does it have? Swastika. Here's the Soviet money. This is interesting. Soviet money. Printed under the Soviet Union, you will see swastikas.
Wow.
Here's another one. Swastika. Here's another one, published, and the money is printed in the Soviet Union under the communist regime, and they use swastika. So, Soviet money always had swastikas on it. Even the Chinese have something called a red swastika society. They get in on it too. So remember the twins, good cop, bad cop, get it? Yep. Both sides, they're holding hands operating behind the scenes. So at the top you'll see the Soviet money with swastikas. On the left you'll see the passport, Soviet passport, swastika. And Hitler's used the swastika. All the same symbol. And the Russian Boys' Ballet and the German Brandenburg Gate. In Russia, there's a great music hall in Russia, very, very famous music hall in Russia. And you'll see the symbol on the top is the rider with 4 horses. There it is, that's a better picture. You'll see at the top over at the pinnacle, you'll see the double-headed eagle, Russian, the 4 horses, the ballet arena, and the Brandenburg Gate in Germany. You'll see the same identical symbol in Germany, 4 horses with the rider. And what's with the white gloves thing? Both sides love white gloves, both the communists and the Nazis. They were communists first. The communists, Marxist socialism, you'll see in Russia, all the military wear white gloves. White gloves, Russian army. They're big into white gloves, Russians are, the communists. Then, this is in Moscow. Then under the Nazis all had white gloves. The military had white gloves. Even Hitler had white gloves. So the point being is that the military of both the socialist communists and the Nazis all have the same symbols, words, colors, terms. The entire superstructure of both sides reflects the same symbols, same words. So there's something going on here that most people don't know. Now we all know that they both sides love red stars. They love the red star. Both the communists and the Nazis use the red star. Now here's the Russian or Soviet communist red star symbol. The 5-pointed star is called the Shield of Solomon, called Solomon's Shield, red shield. That's a whole interesting subject of the red star, where it came from. It goes back to the occult writings in the Kabbalah, talking about Solomon's shield, the 5-pointed shield of Solomon, or the red star of communism. So the red star is used everywhere in communism. Now, even in China. Now, under the Nazis, the red star, on the helmets of the Nazi helmets of red stars on their placards, red stars on their armbands. Both sides use the same ideas on silly posters too. The communists used posters and the Nazis used them, and they're almost identical every time. They showed the same kinds of ideas. One side, left-hand side is Nazis, the right hand is communists. Left hand is Nazis for the Führer, and the right hand is for communists. Same idea. Same idea. The left hand is communists, right hand is Nazis. There they are, the Gold Dust twins. Hitler and Stalin, the Illuminati twins. Same colors, same symbols, same swastika, same saluting. I mean, they're identical, same colors. Incredible. I was amazed too that they both used a rotary. I mean, the Nazis used a rotary. Yeah. And the communists used a rotary.
Yeah, right.
Soviet Union used a rotary. In the middle, you'll see the communist hammer and sickle, the red star, and the rotary. On the right, you'll see the Nazi rotary. So today, now, one last symbol, the communist Nazi dawn of a new day. We've talked about this before. Here's Hitler with this clenched fist. And here's a letter that Hitler wrote to the German people. And down here, I enlarged it so you can see Germany can be saved only by a dictatorship of the national will and the determination to take action. So then he ends it by saying, my fellow Germans, awaken, a new day is dawning. So what you're talking about is Adolf Hitler giving a speech talking about using the communist clenched fist, and he's talking about a new day is dawning. This is Nazis. So there's the sun dawning of the new day of Nazism for the whole world. The new day is dawning. Now, or we can have the Marxist socialism, communism, where the symbol for the Soviet Union, it says the Soviet coat of arms graphically presents the dawn of a new day for the entire world. But this time under communism, not under Nazism. So it's still the dawning of a new day. So when Obama, the communist, was running for, the Marxist-Leninist communist was running for office in America, the theme of his campaign was a new day is dawning. Of course. The Soviet communist, a new day is dawning for America. And Hillary Clinton, on her button it said the dawn of a new day. These people are right in your face telling you what they're doing. The Marxist-Leninist communists. They don't give a damn about America and all this silly bullshit about American land of the free and home of the brave and liberty and justice for all. There's none of that. We're talking communism here. Absolute Soviet, national, red star, Marxist-Leninist communism. Period. Or we can have the Republicans, which are like on the Nazis, on the Bush, which throws everybody in jail and tears up the Constitution too. Neither one of them are American. These are foreign operatives operating under the jurisdiction of the Jesuits to destroy freedom around the world. So what does all this mean for the world of mankind? National socialism? Well, there's a lot of books been written, reference books about the Nazi takeover of America. One of the most important books is on the right. It's called The Old Nazi, the New Right in the Republican Party. It's a very important book. It's a big reference book showing you how the Republican Party, as far back as 1946, 47, 48, was brought under the absolute domination of Operation Paperclip. Under when Truman, after the Second World War, allowed all the top Nazis out of Germany. I don't know if you know this or not, but all the top Nazi theoreticians, scientists, all the great German minds were gotten out of Germany because the war was going bad, and so the Nazis, all the top Nazis, were allowed to flee from Germany. And how did they flee out of Europe when the Russians were surrounding Berlin? The Americans and the Allies were surrounding Berlin. I mean, everybody was surrounding Berlin, and they're going to do them in. But all the top Nazis got out. How did they get out? Because the Vatican is called Operation Paperclip, and look up the word, look up the term in a dictionary or encyclopedia, look up the word Vatican rat line.
But it was sanctioned by the United States.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. You're right.
Just business.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And South America. They went to the United States and South America.
South America, Mexico, Argentina.
Was Hitler Father Crespi?
Huh?
Was Hitler Father Crespi?
Yeah, that's right. And
What does that mean?
and of course, Bush's family, all of Bush's family. Yeah, all of them, were in South America, Central America,
No kidding.
and the drug trafficking and
But those are open facts. You can, this is history. I mean, I knew this ever since I was a child.
Yeah.
My parents knew it.
Are you saying that?
Merkel's his daughter, isn't she? I heard.
Say it again?
Merkel's is his daughter.
Yeah. I think so.
Sir, are you saying that
With the that's right.
you don't ever had a different code name after he went by a different name?
Yeah, they did plastic surgery on him. They hid him away in the little town up in, I forget what country.
So anyway, that's a straight arm salute. The Nazis, I mean, the communists were using a straight arm salute. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And or you have the Marxist communists. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So again, we go back to this idea of the communist hammer and sickle as a part of the communist symbolism. And on the right, on the left-hand side, you will see a picture from the TV, from the television news of Obama's campaign headquarters, his campaign office. Yeah, and you'll see Che Guevara on the wall.
Unreal.
It's on television. I should tell you something about Obama. Marxist, Leninist, communist. It's Soviet. And you got to remember too that
It's right there if you're looking.
And they don't care.
but you need to remember this. Obama is as worthless as a tit on a board. He can't do anything. He's just a young black man.
Yeah.
And a young black man has no power in a white man's nation. That's the fact of life. This is a white man's nation. It's an Anglo-Saxon, violent, powerful presence of religion, military, industrial complex of white man, European domination of the planet for Caesar.
But he's
So,
half
But he was
so
half
let me
white.
finish. So let me finish.
He was
He's half
voted.
white.
Yeah, but he was also voted into office for a certain purpose. You know, they
So,
wanted that. So
The people who are behind Obama is Zbigniew Brzezinski. Zbigniew Brzezinski and Henry Kissinger. You need to understand Zbigniew Brzezinski because he is the brains and the power and the man who put Obama into office. So until you understand anything about Zbigniew Brzezinski, you don't understand what's going on. Obama does not have any real power. I mean, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a very handsome, good-looking, wealthy, powerful, extremely powerful man and his family, but they killed him in front of everybody in public. And nobody went to jail for that. The point I'm making is, there's nobody on the earth that can't be gotten to. And so they picked him because the Nazis were so bad that Bush offended everybody, including this white. So he offended so many people that Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote in his book. He wrote a book called Between Two Ages by Zbigniew Brzezinski. The book was called Between Two Ages, in which Brzezinski said in his book that Soviet communism will be the coming order in America, and that he and others like Henry Kissinger are working for the overthrow of the American system and to bring into being a full-blown Soviet communist government in America. Get the book called Between Two Ages, written by Zbigniew Brzezinski. And he said that's what he was working for, is to bring about a full-blown domination of America by a Soviet communist system. And his enemy was the Republican, Nazi, fascist, evil people that he's trying to overthrow. Well, if you understand that Zbigniew Brzezinski was the man who put Obama into power, then I should tell you something.
yes.
So the bottom line on all of this is very simple now, as far as I'm concerned. The bottom line after everything is said and done is this. The Pope calls for a new world order, well, obviously. And here is Adolf Hitler with the Pope, with the papacy in the Vatican. hobnobbing with the papacy. Now on the left-hand side, you will see out of a magazine, shows Hitler, and it says beneath it, New World Order. That's on the left-hand side is Hitler and the Nazis. On the right-hand side, you will see the Nazi with his name Gorbachev, who was communist, building the New World, a New World Order. So it shows on the one side is Bush and the other side is Gorbachev. Bush is a Nazi, Gorbachev's communist. It doesn't matter, they work together. They're twins. It's just business. Come on, it's like a fight. You know, you got the two fighters in the ring and they're beating each other up and all that. What are you kidding? It's a business. Tonight after the fight is over, they take a shower and they go out and have dinner and sit around and they split it up. How much are they getting? You know, you get 500,000, he gets 500,000. Hey, is that good for a night's work? I mean, hell, you're going to fight somebody anyway. But this way you do 500,000 tonight, right? But your managers make 17 million. They didn't tell you about that. Yeah. It's just business. So somebody did some artwork, and I thought that was interesting. They said the Democrats were communists and the Nazis were Republicans. Well, it's true. Both used death head colors. They both used the red flags. They both used all the same symbols. So the Soviet Union was called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. Newsweek, after Obama gets in, said, well, we're all socialists now. We're all communists now. That's the Newsweek magazine. We're all communists now. So here they are, celebrating, thanking God, holding their hands and praising, looking up at the heaven, thanking God that we have finally got a communist, socialist, Marxist, Leninist, Bolshevik, murdering asshole who is now going to be our great savior for America. And America will pay the price for its ignorance. It was pay the price. America has not even begun to pay the price that's going to be required. They're going to pay, and they're going to pay dearly real soon. When we find out that Obama just don't give a damn about you or your country. And,
But then it doesn't matter who wins, whether it's Obama or
that's right.
Jack Nicklaus.
That's,
you know,
I know,
it
that's
is what it
exactly right.
is.
But that's my point.
Right.
Is that if you don't like that, well, you can always put in Bush. He was a Nazi, as Gestapo, and he's gonna rape the country too. So what does it matter? You either got a Nazi or a communist. They both use the same symbols, words, terms, colors. So got Hitler on one side and Stalin on the other. That's it. There's Bush. So that's about it. That was the point I wanted to make.